Hey everyone, I am so excited for this event today. We are joined today by the biggest advocate for girls' education, Malala Yousafzai. Malala needs no introduction, but we can certainly share some life updates for this fearless activist. Malala has graduated from Oxford University with a degree in philosophy, politics, and economics. And recently, she got married, which is so lovely. And we're so happy for you, Malala. Congratulations. Malala continues to advocate for girls' education globally, just like she has been since she was a young girl. Most recently, Malala has been raising her voice for girls' education situation in Afghanistan. Today, we will be indulging in a conversation on the state of girls' education and how we can use digital media to improve it. And can we use the innovation of Web3 to reimagine education and to create a more inclusive space for women and girls and all voices, especially from the marginalized communities? So thank you so much, Malala, for joining me here on the Women Rise stage for this conversation.
Thank you so much, Maliha. It's so nice to see you on screen finally. And I follow your work on social media, and you're doing, such an amazing, cool work. And I am honored to be part of these projects, especially your books as well. You have done an amazing job in, in showing the younger generation of both girls and boys, to look up to women role models. So thank you so much for doing that, and especially bringing attention to women of color.
Oh, thank you so much, Malala. You're amazing, and I'm so honored. So just thank you so much for your time today. So Malala, my first question to you is: I would like to start by talking about Afghan girls' education. You have been campaigning for it since day one. You have been amplifying the voices of Afghan activists alongside that as well. It has been more than 160 days since Afghan girls have not had access to their education. With the recent developments and empty promises about girls' education from the current regime in Afghanistan, what is your biggest concern and what will make the situation better, if anything, in your opinion?
I think what happened last summer in Afghanistan shook the world. Afghanistan became the only country in the world where girls were denied access to secondary education. And we know that girls are usually the first ones to drop out in conflicts and the last ones to return. So my biggest and deepest concern is that the education of Afghan girls will be ignored. It will not be prioritized in such times. And that's why we started our campaigning right from the start. We ran this open letter on avaz.org, and more than 1 million people signed that. And we are calling leaders to stand up to protect the rights of women and the rights of girls to education in Afghanistan. We know that every day matters in your education. And even when you miss, one day, that can have a huge impact on your learning. But if you miss out months and years of education, that can really keep you behind. And it has not just consequences for yourself, but also for your community, your country. And we know that the only hope for Afghanistan right now is to help the people, is to help the women, the children who have been badly damaged by this war. And it's usually the innocent people who suffer the most in wars and conflicts. So it's really important that we invest in the education of children, giving specific attention to girls' education to ensure that they get the opportunity to learn, to read, to write, and to build a stronger country, and to build a stronger economy, and to ensure that Afghanistan is heading towards peace.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Malala. I 100% agree. It is truly devastating what's happening in Afghanistan, and only by continuously raising our voice and calling on leaders can we expect any sort of real change. And thank you so much for being a leader in this space and paving the way and amplifying voices of women and girls from across Afghanistan. So thank you so much for that. My next question to you is that your activism started more than a decade ago. Digital media at the time did not have the same power as it does today, but you were able to get your voice out there in the shape of an online diary when your own school education was under attack. How do you think digital media today, with the resources we have, can help activists, their education, especially in the most marginalized communities? And is bridging the digital divide a component in that?
That's a really good question. Yes, I started my activism through digital media. And at that time, it was on a very smaller scale compared to now. But I started with blogging, and today we see that digital media is a helpful tool for activists to tell their stories, raise awareness about issues they care about, share ideas, allow more audience to connect with it. And oh, somebody's calling.
That's
Can you
okay.
hear that?
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. So
Take the call if you
yeah, so and like right now we're seeing that, whether it's TikTok or Twitter or Facebook, or other forms of media, like the young generation know how to use it best to raise awareness about the issues that they care about, from climate change to gender equality, and mental health. And that's why, like at Malala Fund, we started this platform called Assembly. And on that, like girls around the world are sharing their stories. And usually what we have seen is that on media, you would hear, about girls, about what is going on in their life, about their hardships, but you would like hardly hear from them talking about solutions, talking about how they're fighting against those challenges, fighting for having a voice in the rooms where decisions are made about their lives and their bodies. So I think that is shifting, that is changing, and it's just so nice to see the voice of women echo on these platforms. And I hope that it continues, because it raises awareness, but it also helps us to focus on how to address these issues and how to ensure that the voices of women and girls are heard. Like, it's not just about becoming fully aware of it, but ensuring that these voices reach to the rooms where decisions are made. And in an ideal world, like, I hope that women are sitting there and they're not just telling their stories, but they're part of those decisions.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Malala. And I personally am in love with Assembly. I feel like the stories that are shared on Assembly can be such a strong roadmap. Like you said, that, like the activists on there, the girls and women like sharing their stories on Assembly, like I feel like it can be a roadmap for so many other emerging activists and for other, people from around the world. Like it can be their way of finding courage and how they can kind of mobilize their communities and create change in their own life. So I think Assembly is an amazing tool that Malala Fund has, and I would encourage everyone here to, check it out for sure.
It's on Instagram, and yeah, and you can subscribe. It's a newsletter as well.
Yeah, and it's amazing. So, yeah, I'll definitely link it down below for everyone and share it within our community as well. And we are we are working with Malala Fund team to like do more around Assembly and women rights. So more to come on that soon. So my third question for you, Malala, is that at Women Rise, which is a Web3 organization focused on women's rights and girls' education, we're building the first school in the metaverse, which is like a utopian idea, and wouldn't be possible without the Web3 technology. But activists like yourself have paved the way for other activists to think outside the box when it comes to advancing, especially when it comes to advancing education. I know you're an inspiration for me as well, and millions of others out there. And we have seen a rise in Web3 jobs, opportunities, and innovation. And using the power of Web3, how do you think we can reimagine education? And do we need to reimagine education?
Definitely, we need to reimagine education. This pandemic has forced many of us to think about education beyond the classroom setting. And many students have spent almost an entire year learning online and taking classes via Zoom. I was part of those classes. We started from the class of 2020, and the final few months were just spent on Zoom on our computers from our bedroom. And we know that to reach to girls in some of the most marginalized communities and to help them, there are activists who are using technology to provide lessons to those girls, from radio, television broadcasts, and other apps that can really help them in those circumstances. And this is some of the projects that the activists that we support at Malala Fund are doing. In the north of Nigeria, they are using radios to promote lessons. So even when girls are at home and they are not able to go back to their schools because of pandemic or other issues, they can still be revising and studying through those radio lessons. And I would like to see leaders across businesses, government, international development get more creative and find alternative solutions to make education accessible, reach out to more girls, and reach out to those who are in the most remote and deprived areas. So I think, yes, there is this other universe out there that can really help us to equalize access to education, to ensure that it's an efficient way, and that we actually use these new tools that we have to address the problems that we have been facing for many, many decades. I think technology can help us to address the problems. But then on the other hand, if we are not sensitive to how sometimes the way these things are structured, built, designed, at default, it can have biases. So we need to be very deliberate in ensuring that technology and these tools are reaching out to those from low income families, to women as well, and to so I think sort of that the imbalance that we can clearly see in data, like we need to be mindful of that.
Absolutely. And I absolutely loved like hearing about the women girls in Nigeria and how they're educating their communities through radio. Like there is no boundary when it comes to ways on how we can keep on educating. So, and also like working on the digital divide is such a that's why it becomes so crucial as well, because once we get through that bridge, I think the possibilities are endless. So thank you so much for sharing that, Malala. We
And
have
it's so nice to see you in the NFT world. You are becoming, you are a role model to women to see themselves in that field. And I think once you see role models, it gives you hope that you can be there as well. If you are a woman of color, you wear hijab, you are a Muslim, all of these things that usually, society tells you are, are somehow, it should prevent you from not imagining yourself in certain fields. Like you are actually breaking down all those stereotypes. So thank you so much for doing that. It's so nice to follow your story and to be part of it. And I'm really excited about this project of having this sort of a VR school. Like I want us to be creative. I want us to reimagine education and to look at the tools and the resources we have right now, and how can we use those to make education accessible to all children all around the world.
That is so sweet of you, Malala. Firstly, thank you so much. But honestly, like at Women Rise, we're like constantly celebrating you. We're constantly celebrating the idea of education. Women Rise is built on being able to advance women's rights and girls' education. And, like if it wasn't for you and activists like yourself and women like yourself paving the way for so many others, I don't think many of us would even be here or feel inspired. So, like I personally feel inspired on so many levels, not just because you're a woman, not just because you're a Muslim woman, but also because you're Pakistani, and, like on so many levels, it's just so incredible. So thank you so much. And I know Women Rights community is like freaking out right now. So really excited. So my fourth question to you, I know we have been talking about really inspiring things and how powerful women and girls are, and how even in the most dire situations, they're making the most out of it and still helping themselves in terms of their education, and how Malala Fund is helping their education. I would love to know that with all of these efforts, do you think the state of girls' education is getting better or worse globally? keeping the unforeseen circumstances in mind as well, such as what happened in Afghanistan, or the current pandemic, or even the climate change.
Yes, indeed, climate change, the pandemic, and conflicts can worsen the gender gap and accessibility to education for girls, and also the financial support for education is also decreasing, and there is lack of funding in the field of education, and that gap is widening every year. There's around, like, I think $200 billion gap in that leaders need to commit to. So, like, every year when they make commitments, some of them are doing good job, or some of them are making zero commitments, or some of them sort of fall short of the commitments that they should be making. And I think it can be really frustrating, because most of them do say, yes, we should be supporting education, yes, women should be treated fairly and equally. But when it comes to financial commitments, and when it comes to actually making practical decisions, their commitments fall short. That's why it's always a challenge for us to continue to push leaders to prioritize girls' education. For me, it's an emergency, because 130 million girls do not have access to education. Like, this is alarming. We should wake up and imagine, like, what the world is losing right now, when millions of girls do not even get access to go to school, to learn to read and write, to know about their rights, their safety, their protection, and how they can earn for themselves, how they can be part of the community. And we know that girls who are not able to get their education, they face 100 times more challenges. And education can really help them to build themselves, to confront some of those challenges that and the studies and the researches that have been done on education, it shows us that when we educate girls, it reduces poverty, it helps us tackle climate change, it improves economies. If all girls around the world get access to complete 12 years of education, it adds up to $30 trillion to the world economy. Like, just think about that. And then on the other hand, there's a few $billion gap, but if we actually address that gap, if we actually make the financial commitments, the outcome is in trillions of dollars. And we know that we can create a healthier, wealthier, and safer society when we educate girls. So this should be the priority of world leaders, and that's why Malala Fund is here, to continue doing the advocacy. We work with local partners and activists as well, who are working in the most marginalized communities around the world, in parts of Pakistan, Nigeria, Brazil, India, Afghanistan, to ensure that girls have access to education. They're doing research work. They're using digital tools to make education more accessible. They're training female teachers, and they're changing national level policies as well. So amazing work is going on the ground for girls' education, for the quality of education, and for the safety of education. And I hope that this continues, this accelerates, and that we all realize, like, this is what we need for our future. Like, we need to ensure that in this world, like, we're surrounded by so much information, like, giving children the access to absorb the information, to assess it, to analyze it, is really important. I think it's just so crucial in these days, especially.
Absolutely. And one thing is to talk about, like, how it can improve world economy by trillions. You mentioned $30 trillion, adding just 12 years of education. So we're not even talking about higher education or university, which is like a challenge even for, still a challenge for so many people who even had education up till high school. But also another thing is that, talking about perhaps how it can save women and girls, like, from domestic violence, from child marriages, and like, impacts on their health, and culturally said in general. Like, I think when we talk about education, sometimes people think, oh, education, like studying, grades, like, it's not limited to that. It's a very, like, it's one side of that. It's so much more than that. Like, it's literally educating a girl can like have a domino effect on our entire world. And I think that's something that people don't understand. Like you mentioned, climate change, even, which should be an emergency for all of us, can be
Mhm.
resolved because of educating girls. And it's a devastating number to think about. 130 million girls currently out of school, with things like pandemic, what's happening in Afghanistan, climate change only making these things worse. So it's absolutely devastating. And like, we're grateful for the work you're doing, we're grateful for the work Malala Fund is doing. So thank you so much for that, Malala. We are coming to an end of our conversation, which is just really sad. But
Mhm.
honestly, like, I can talk to you and like learn from you all day long. I do want to ask you about, like, what can we expect from Malala in 2022? Like, I know you have Podium, your new newsletter, which is incredible. Um, and we also have the masterclass. We have, of course, we have, like, ongoing programs like Assembly, what's happening in Malala Fund. So what's in it for you for 2022?
2022. So many twos in that. I think for me, like, yes, I'm continuing to do my work for girls' education through Malala Fund. Our priorities are girls' education in Afghanistan, the digital gap, digital gender gap, and the COVID-19 pandemic and how that has impacted girls' education and how we can recover from that. And then looking at climate change and how that impacts girls' education, from floods, droughts to other climate activities that is causing the dropout of girls from schools. And then also looking at how education can help us address all of these issues as well. So that work will continue. I will continue to be writing for Podium as well, which is my newsletter. So do check that out. And what else? And I have also started a productions company, and I'm partnering with Apple TV Plus, and my productions company, Extracurricular, will be producing content very soon. So the conversations are going really well right now, and we'll have some, something in a few years, hopefully. And other than that, I am just spending time with my family and friends, and just following the stories of inspiring women like you, Maliha, and that gives me hope every day to continue the work that I'm doing for girls' education and to work harder. Yeah.
That's very kind of you. And it's so wonderful to hear that you're doing so many amazing things. I'm really excited. Podium is amazing. I'm a reader of it, and it's amazing. And I'm so excited for your the content from your production company as well. I love the name Extracurricular. Like, it's amazing. um, um, so my last question to you, Malala, is that we're so grateful to you. Of course, like, you are so busy, you're a superwoman. So thank you so much for taking all the time to chat with the women's rights community. Do you have a message for them?
I would just say, women rise. The name says it. You are rising. You are changing the norms. You are making history. So continue this work. Keep inspiring other women and girls. And you are creating a change. And you are part of a change. So it's really nice to see that. And I just enjoy the work that you're doing so much. So it's truly inspiring. Yeah, and I'm really excited about, like, this Web 3.0 and NFTs and like what's in there. So it's really exciting. And Maliha is going to be my tutor on this. So we're going to have some lessons. And yeah. I don't know, we might have some cool projects together soon, who knows. But yeah, let's stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's an exciting world. And I personally think, and we were talking about this earlier too, that Web3 can be an amazing tool to amplify even further what Malala Fund is doing and what you're doing. So, 100% there for you. 100% women
Thank
rights community is there for you. We're cheering you on and ready to welcome you in the Web3 space. So, with that, Malala, thank you so much for being here with us. The entire women rights community would like to say a huge thanks to you and your team for giving us this opportunity today. I know you're super busy changing the
Yeah.
world for all of us, and we're truly grateful. So, thank you so much, Malala.
Thank you. So nice talking to you. Bye bye. Take care. Thank you.
Take care.